Good afternoon. I want to thank the organizers of this program because as the day has gone on and I have been reflecting and taking notes, I saw this morning everything was grounded in lean principles. So we heard from Steve Spear, we heard from Miles, and they were really talking about these core lean principles. And Steve even talked about 5S. And these are countermeasures that are well documented by the Toyota used to solve Toyota's problems, and they're still applicable. No matter what technologies are coming in the future, these principles, and we need to study these tools and learn from them because they're applicable to the technology that's coming. But I appreciated the afternoon as well because there's all kinds of new technologies coming. And I think for us in the CI space, we're on that cutting edge, that bleeding edge of grounded in principles. New technologies are coming. How do we incorporate these new technologies? How do we test and learn? And sometimes we don't have the skill sets. So John Toussaint kept talking about that. I heard him at the LEI Summit and today talking about we have to work with technology people to help solve these problems of the future. So I'm thinking about that all the time, and I'm thinking about how technology can help us create more problem solvers. Can we use technology? That's my hypothesis. Can technology be used to create more problem solvers? Can we do it more efficiently? Can we do it faster? So when Joe was talking, he asked how many use Chat GPT or some kind of language model in their work. Can I see those hands? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now keep them up. So you guys need some blood flow, I think. Okay. So how many of you have used Chat GPT to help solve problems in your organization? About how many people have used it to affinitize data? Okay. How many people have used it to look for potential countermeasures that are available? Okay. Interesting. So I want to talk about we have the future of people work, the future of people learning. Let's go in the hot tub time machine. I know it's scary. I'm taking you back to 1975. The number one song was Love Will Keep You Together. I had that on a 45, and Muskrat Love was on the B side. Okay, I happen to know that. The number one TV show was All in the Family, and Jaws was the number one movie. And that's when the calculator went into the classroom. The first calculators were introduced into the classroom in 1975. What do you guys think the reaction to that was? What? They need to do it by hand. Absolutely, that was the reaction. The prevailing opinion among all educators is that parents, students are going to become dependent on this technology and forget their basic skills. So then we had schools without calculators, not using them in the education. But then what are students doing at home? Using calculators. So we had this imbalance of what the curriculum was and then what was the technology being used at home. So a little timeline of adoption. I find this really interesting. First classroom in about 75. That was scary, but even more scary were graphing calculators when they came out because now students could cheat. So it wasn't for 27 years from that introduction until they were allowed on standardized exams like the SAT. So long time frame of adoption. What had to happen for that adoption? Educational reform. So teachers had to understand, okay, we're not doing rote math anymore. What are we teaching them? Problem solving. And can that technology be used to help them solve problems? They had to change their curriculum, teacher training, teacher acceptance. And again, as we saw with the presentation from the professor at Oakland University, I mean, economic factors, people didn't have that technology. So there's always a economic component to this new integration of technology. But what they saw was improved educational outcomes in the fact that they could pull more advanced math skills in earlier because then we're teaching concepts. We're teaching concepts using the calculator at the very end to, maybe do a grading and assessment. So the curriculum had to change. So from ABC to ChatGPT, and we're all kind of caught up in that excitement, the transformative power of what these new tools can bring. It feels pretty big to me, but it's really important that we get this right. I think a lot of people think Dream Machine for cheaters, for ChatGPT or other large language models. OpenAI's ChatGPT passed the bar exam. It scored 1410 on the SAT. It's passed all the AP tests. It's pretty smart. How can AI help us in learning? Content creation faster. So if teachers are spending 40% of their time on content creation, can ChatGPT help us with content creation? Can it help us with personalized learning examples? I want examples from healthcare. I want examples from the insurance industry. I want examples from the food industry. So creating personalized curriculum faster. Interactive tutoring. How many of you have children that have used Khan Academy? Okay, so Khan Academy, largely funded by Microsoft, is online tutoring, online teaching. A lot of students have used it. They now have interactive bots that are sitting on top that are interacting with students, asking them more questions, providing them feedback, prompting students. Where I have new tools for data analysis that's going to show where these gaps are in learning so we can have improved assessment. So there's going to be a lot of technology that can be used to aid us in learning. So MoreSteam, we're not Microsoft, okay? We're a tiny company, but we're running 3 experiments right now. So as soon as OpenAI came out, we knew this is kind of a game changer. What experiments can we run in the learning space to learn more about how these tools can help us? So the first one, we call our chat, we call it Hexie. And Hexie sits on top of several of our platforms, but the first one is a data analysis platform. So students are doing data analysis, and data analysis can be difficult. So we have it in there. Say you're doing something. We have customers and students, they're solving important problems where getting the answer right in all of your organizations, it matters. Do I know the difference? I'm doing a gauge R&R. Do I know the difference between repeatability and reproducibility? That could be important. I need to know that. Right at your fingertips, you can ask, and it'll provide that answer alongside doing that data analysis. But we're done a test and learn. My good buddy, Gary, he's always talking about go slow to go fast. So we put this in, and Joe kind of mentioned that, yeah, these models can hallucinate, provide answers that are incorrect. We have to study this and see. So we've trained it, but we need to monitor that model and see what the students are asking. Here's an example. How do I make an old fashioned? So this is in our data analysis program. This is what the student is asking. This, I thought it was kind of funny. This particular student has had about 30 queries on top of our data analysis asking about how to make an old fashioned. And I think they're trying to break the model or get the model to do something. So the model has been pretty good about returning. Hey, I'm not going to tell you how to make an old fashioned. But this particular student has been pretty inquisitive about the old fashioned, getting it to talk about a two means t test and paired sample tests. This person won't give up, but we do. I just want you to know we do monitor, and it is really important to monitor not just what the feedback, but also what are students asking, right? Because there's a signal about what they're asking that's telling you what don't they understand. So if you can start getting to, hey, they're asking for solutions to these problems, that's going to start telling me what don't they understand. I need to dig into that a little bit more. In our e-learning, we've put in 10 lessons on how to communicate with ChatGPT because it gets back to asking the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you're going to get much better answers. So educating people on how do you work with these large language models and how can you become a more effective problem solver to use this technology in your workplace to help solve your problems. How many people have read Managing to Learn? Yeah, okay, that's great. In '02, I was at a conference. It was called the Lean Educators Academic Conference. And I remember this specifically because John Shook, he spoke. It was before his book was published, but he talked about A3s. And I had the opportunity to meet John's colleague that night. I went to dinner with, I remember this, Peter Ward, Art Smalley, John Shook, and John's colleague from Toyota. And I told his colleague I was pretty excited. I was like, I'm going to do A3s in my MBA class. I'm so good now. Got, some training from John. And John's colleague said to me, getting ready to retire. And he goes, I'm just about understanding it. I was like, what? Did he have a bad teacher? So I would think about that sometimes. Just about to understand this. I'm like, hasn't he had 40 years of A3 thinking? I'm just about to understand it. That stuck in my head over and over again. I'm just about to understand it. And I think he was trying to tell me how hard it is. This is really hard stuff we're doing, trying to teach people problem solving. And I appreciate where's Carlos from Kaiser Permanente saying that, man. Had that sensei. They were really hard on me. Where's Carlos? Yeah, like we went to the woods and we battled out on the A3 thinking. And I think we all want that one-on-one learning. It's myself learning, and I have a sensei, and I have 20 years to go back and forth to become a problem solver. Just like in that Managing to Learn book. Okay, I got a translation problem. I have a sensei. We're going back and forth. There's a lot of questions. But in your organizations, there's not a one-for-one. There's not a leader, teacher, and a learner. You probably have a leader, teacher, and 20 people that you're trying to coach through problem solving. That's the hypothesis. Can AI help you help your students to become better at problem solving? Here's our next experiment. This is a simulation. It's called St. Sigma Hospital. It's a lab problem. Students go through it and they put in their problem statement, which is probably one of the hardest things to do. How many agree with that? Like getting a really good problem statement. So imagine in the real world, when you're working on your A3, you write your problem statement and it goes into the ether or wherever it goes. And then you're waiting for your coach to give you feedback on that. Can you interact with AI sooner to give you feedback? Yes, you can. because there's some specific things that we're looking for. Do you have data in there? Do you have a current condition, and can you show what the gap is? Did you explain what the business case is? So AI can help with these tools, and that doesn't take away from the coach. That just says, you know what? I have an interactive coach before I'm going to meet with my coach. So some thought starters for you. How can AI be used to increase student engagement and motivation? How can AI foster critical thinking skills among students? How can AI complement traditional teaching methods to enhance student learning? It's here. I think we need to study it and understand how can we use this in our community to just double, triple the amount of people that can solve problems close to where the work is done. And I'm going to finish with the skills that will be most in demand will be the ability to know what questions to ask. Thank you.